Hey guys, this is Top, and in this video I'll be showing you some of the mechanics behind a direct damage focused staff elementalist. Now, this build definitely requires a higher skill level than the condition damage scepter spec that I showed you last week, so if you're not familiar with the elementalist and you're looking for a spec to try out, I would recommend that first for structured PvP, just because it's a little bit easier to get used to the elementalist mechanics in it. But this spec is a pretty rewarding spec. Obviously, as a staff spec, it has a big focus on area effect damage. Every single attunement except for air has multiple ground targeted area effect spells, and you can cast all these spells at really long range. They all have 1200 range. So when you're in structured PvP, you're usually going to feel a little bit claustrophobic if you're trying to stay at 1200 range. You're trying to stay pretty far away from the enemy, but it's a little bit difficult. And the staff definitely requires even more so than the scepter for you to be constantly changing attunements, because the cooldowns are going to be quite a bit longer. And you really need to use every single attunement's control in order to stay alive. You also don't have, the direct healing that you do with the scepter dagger. You have a little bit of slower heals. And so generally speaking, the staff is probably a little bit harder to use in structured PvP, but it's still definitely very powerful, and it feels quite rewarding when you get the hang of it. Now, as far as stats go, I went for a pretty balanced build, so while I have a high amount of power, I didn't actually go full glass cannon. And so I have a pretty decently high vitality and toughness, and I actually do have more health than I did in the scepter video, but if you're watching them one after the other, you'll notice that I actually do go down quite a bit faster in this video than I did in the scepter video. And that's probably because of two big reasons. One is that I'm using my utility slots for signets now in order to get offensive control instead of get out of jail free cards. And the second thing is just that I'm playing better players. So while I'm probably playing a little bit better than I did in the last video, I'm actually playing players who are quite a bit better than the ones I was playing. So I actually do end up going down pretty fast, and it takes me a while to get used to it. So in this next clip, I'm coming up towards the clock tower, and I see this engineer going in. Now, air attunement gives me some interesting control, so I know this engineer is sort of a pain to kill from past experience, so I stay in air attunement so that I can go ahead and I stun him. I'm going to pause the video real quick to explain how static field works. So static field doesn't actually stun everything inside of its area effect. It actually only stuns along the edge of its area effect. When he tried to run through it, he actually got stunned at that point. And then right here, the way that I'm aligned with him allows me to actually use my knockback. So the knockback in air attunement is actually sort of annoying to pull off, and you'll see in a couple times that I actually end up missing it. But when he's stunned, it allows me to go ahead and I knock him. So I knock him out of the control area so that we can continue to cap it. And as he's running up, I go ahead and I go into fire attunement so that I can drop a lava font, and he's forced to actually run through it. I also use burning retreat so just he stays focused on the other guy. And then I go into water attunement. Now water attunement allows me to chill him and start to stack some vulnerability on him. So the reason why vulnerability is really good is because this mesmer is attacking him, and since this is a 2v1, I don't really need to worry about just my damage being all of it. So he's trying to run, so I go into earth attunement to give me a little bit of control. So I go ahead and I mobilize him, and then I drop this area effect. And then I notice that this warrior doubles back on me, so I roll forward. And then he bulls charges me, which stuns me. Now I know that this warrior is actually like an incredible pain, because he's a total glass cannon spec. So I burning retreated pretty well straight up the ramp. And then I go ahead and I drop a meteor storm, and then immediately use my signet of earth to stun him. So he got stunned up there, and then he just ended up dying to all the meteors. I end up coming back around to go up and finish him off, since I know that he's dead. I drop a static field again, just to make sure that anyone who's coming in isn't able to save him. He goes ahead and he vengeances though, so since I know that he's going to end up going down in a couple of seconds, that's the warrior ability to come back to life for a few seconds, I don't even bother fighting him, because he'll just do damage to me. So I go in towards the clock tower and I heal up a little bit. So you can see there that I had a lot of control. I was still pretty squishy, but by changing attunements to whatever's useful, I was able to come up with a pretty good response. Now I'm moving out, and I see a mesmer over here, so I'm like, okay, I can fight him. Go ahead and I start to burn him, and I drop some spells. Now he's starting to summon clones, so I go into air attunement, because the auto attack in air attunement actually will bounce around and hit all the clones. Now I paused it just to show that, see, I tried to knock him back, but since he was strafing, the knockback actually missed him, because it doesn't home in or auto follow the way that a lot of range attacks do. It'll still keep going. So as you can see, I'm fighting this guy, and I drop another static field because I see that warrior's back. And so I start to run away because I'm afraid of him, but I notice that he starts fighting something else, so I'm like, okay, I can just drop a meteor on that area, and then since the mesmer is actually hurt, I can go ahead and I chill the warrior so that he can't stop me, and then I go ahead and start fighting him. Now if I hadn't chilled that warrior, you probably could have DPS'd me down really fast while I was trying to actually finish off that warrior, so it was a little bit dangerous. Now here you can see the heals in water attunement. They're actually really potent, but the problem is that you actually have to stay in the area effect. Unlike the scepter dagger build, where you could just drop them and then immediately keep moving, the heals here actually require me to stay inside of this area. So I'm gonna go ahead and I keep running along, and this necromancer is actually almost getting me down. I tried again there to knock him back, but again, it's a little bit finicky, so even though you can see that I'm facing him, the actual spell ended up going over to the right here, straight up the ramp, so it ends up totally whiffing. So I run up the ramp and I use Mist Form plus the heal. You can use your heal still while you're in Mist Form, and I'm expecting him to continue to follow me, but he ends up fighting this other guy. I can go ahead and I drop a line over there to cripple him, and I end up giving chase. And at this point, this guy's pretty much done. So in this next clip, I'm sort of guarding between the mansion and the clock tower. I want to make sure that we don't lose it. I see this Nurse Joy person. I know from fighting him before that he hits like a complete truck. It must be like a glass cannon scepter dagger build. And so I try to bait him into my unsteady ground, but he doesn't fall for it. He comes out. I'm getting hit really hard, so I have to use Misform and heal to get away. And so I'm just trying to loop around, and I see that this mesmer is chasing me, so I'm like, okay, I can fight you. I stay in Earth Attunement for a little bit, trying to apply weakness, which will actually keep him from doing too much damage to me. And then he actually dazed my Signet of Earth the first time I tried to root him, but then I managed to do it the second time. And so I'm running away here, and I get back into the room, and I see that Nurse Joy is about to go down, so I just go ahead and I finish him off. I drop a static field there to prevent the engineer from interfering, and he actually does run into it. He doesn't get stunned, which is a little bit weird, but he ended up getting dazed. So I start fighting again, and then this thief comes, and this thief's like this really buff venom build. So I'm being pretty careful. I try to just drop a meteor storm on myself, and the thief actually just comes in and tries to Basilisk Venom me, but the other guy gets in the way at the last second, so I barely managed to get away, mostly out of luck. Oh, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to heal up. Before I go in, I actually ended up canceling my healing rain there, so that was a little bit bad on my part. So I'm going to go back in now to help out that ranger. And I start to attack the thief because I know that he's already blown all of his venoms, so I can DPS him down a good bit. I use Signet of Earth there to hold him inside of my lava font because it hits like crazy hard. They really need to get out of it, and so if you can immobilize them right before you use the lava font, it does incredible damage. And then here I'm trying to run away and backing up because there were too many enemies in there. I do manage to stun him and then land that knockback, but then he like teleports back up to me, which is sort of strange. I'm fighting him again, and I'm trying to just control his movement using my area effects to deny area. So I'm like dropping a lava font through the doorway so he can't chase me, dropping a healing rain to cleanse off his venom so that I don't end up getting trapped. And again, just trying to control his movement. I use the Signet of Water there, and really in this build you've probably noticed that I'm using a lot of signets. Every single time I use a signet, I'm getting a buff and like an aura, and then the aura is actually giving me fury and swiftness, so it keeps me moving quickly and it improves my crit rate. So I'm able to really control the thief's movement. And you can see he actually has all of his venoms up, which is really bad for me. I actually didn't notice it at the time. And here he pops his elite, which stuns me, and I really probably should have healed earlier, but I go ahead and I get my heal off, and then use my signet to chill him, and then I just barely get out of his range. The healing rain needs to be used to remove this poison, otherwise it's going to kill me, and just barely get out. So I'm like, okay, I won't go back to fight him again. I'll just run up this way and, oh look, Mesmer. I actually don't engage right away because I want to stay out of combat for this regen. And start trying to cap the node. That Elementalist is back, so he's like burning me really hard. So I'm like, okay, there's a lot of enemies here. I'm gonna heal up, and then I'm gonna use a tornado. And I get a Dragon Tooth through the face because I can't get out of the way. The tornado is really not that great of an elite. This is actually sort of funny. We have a tornado versus tornado battle here. But you move so slowly and you gain a little bit of health, but I mean you gain a decent amount of health, but you become such a huge target. So you can see that all four of them are able to really easily just burn me down while I'm just sort of messing around, but it's not effective enough. So I guess for final thoughts on the Staff Elementalist, it's definitely a lot of fun. It probably has few more weaknesses that people can exploit in structured PvP because of how dependent you are on area. You know, if your opponents are really good at getting out of AoE, then it's a little bit hard. But I find that in a team-oriented situation, so as I continued to play it, I was playing with increasingly better players on both sides. And if I could chain my AoE with other players' CC, so I could somebody immobilizes somebody and I can drop a lava font or something like that underneath them, or I can use my healing rain to remove conditions off of my allies or something like that. Like, there was just so much potential for teamwork. Even if my 1 versus 1 ability wasn't quite as good as in that Scepter Dagger build, I felt like it was just immensely powerful. And I felt really good. You know, the more that I played it, the better I got at switching attunements back and forth, and you know, using my utilities to control my opponents and doing all this stuff. So I definitely think that it's probably my favorite Elementalist build that I tried so far. But you know, we'll have to see as the beta weekends come along. You know, all this stuff is subject to change, and we'll just have to see what ends up being the best Elementalist build at launch. That took a really long time to edit. Well, I hope you liked it. Thanks for watching, and if you like this content, then please subscribe, and I'll have more Guild Wars 2 content coming out regularly. For a more detailed write-up on the build, check out my blog at topvp.wordpress.com. Have a great day.